It was January fixed. We're going to call it January fixed, not January 6th. It was January fixed. Maybe we can make that a thing because it was a total setup. Now, for 2 years, this show has been asking some basic questions about that day that nobody else seems to be terribly interested in. Who left the doors open for the protesters to just come on in? Why isn't the killer of Ashley Babbitt being prosecuted? Who is Ray Epps? And how is it that the Capitol Police could have failed so miserably in their basic job, securing the Capitol building? Those questions off limits for not only the January 6th committee, but for the corrupt and incurious media as well, who are apparently content to be lied to or are willing to lie themselves. Not me and not Tucker Carlson. Tonight, we're grateful for what Tucker Carlson did and maybe a little bit envious, but the important part is the information, is the story, and House Speaker McCarthy, Kevin McCarthy, granted Tucker access to thousands of hours of security camera footage from the Capitol on January 6th that blows up the Democrat narrative of that day, that this was worse than 9/11, that it was an insurrection. It wasn't. It was a setup. Now, first, remember this guy, the horns guy? Now, I've said for 2 years, he did not break anything. He did not hurt anybody. And at times, he seemed like he was actually assisted by Capitol Police, that they were helping him along. And now we know he was.
Virtually every moment of his time inside the Capitol was caught on tape. The tapes show that Capitol Police never stopped Jacob Chansley. They helped him. They acted as his tour guides. Here's video of Chansley in the Senate chamber. Capitol Police officers take him to multiple entrances and even try to open locked doors for him. We counted at least 9 officers who were within touching distance of unarmed Jacob Chansley. Not one of them even tried to slow him down.
How do you explain that? There is no explanation for that. The Capitol Hill Police failed us and may have been complicit in some of this. Next.
Chansley understood that Capitol Police were his allies. Video shows him giving thanks for them in a prayer on the floor of the Senate. Watch.
Thank you, Heavenly Father, for giving the inspiration needed to these police officers to allow us into the building.
Isn't that amazing? Now, Jacob Chansley's mother will be joining us soon. This is evidence, by the way, we don't believe his lawyer had access to. Jacob Chansley is in prison tonight, serving a 3 to 4 year federal sentence. How are they going to explain this? All right, next, the late Brian Sicknick, Capitol Hill police officer who died the day after on January 7th. Now, first, we were lied to and told MAGA rioters threw a fire extinguisher at his head. That was not true. Another lie, but a lie that helped mythologize and glorify the Democrats' version of January 6th. Joe Biden even attended the memorial service for Officer Sicknick. But Officer Sicknick was alive and well on January 6th at the time when we were later told he was dying.
Here is surveillance footage of Sicknick walking in the Capitol after he was supposedly murdered by the mob outside. By all appearances, Sicknick is healthy and vigorous. He's wearing a helmet, so it's hard to imagine he was killed by a head injury. Whatever happened to Brian Sicknick was very obviously not the result of violence he suffered at the entrance to the Capitol. This tape overturns the single most powerful and politically useful lie that Democrats have told us about January 6th. This tape would shatter the fraud they were perpetrating on the country, because hiding the truth served their political interest. They lied about the police officer they claimed to revere. If they were willing to do that, then their dishonesty knew no limits.
No limits regarding January 6th or just about anything else. It's incredible. Prince William of England even sent a letter of sympathy to the Sicknick family. That's fine, but under the false impression that Sicknick was killed by MAGA. That is a lie. Now, eventually, the Capitol Police admitted that Officer Sicknick died of natural causes. We'll have more on that in a little bit, and how they're trying to explain and excuse their way out of this one. There is no excuse. Next, Senator Josh Hawley, Republican of Missouri, who would object to the counting of electoral votes on January 6th. And under the Electoral Count Act of 1887, That's entirely legal, no matter how much the left tries to say that's insurrectionist behavior. The left tried to say that Josh Hawley retreated like a coward from the riot he started. Another lie.
The committee released video of him loping out of the building on the afternoon of January 6th with a police escort. The tape became a staple on social media. The actual videotape shows that Hawley was one of many lawmakers being ushered out of the building by Capitol Hill police officers. And in fact, Hawley was at the back of the pack. The coward tape was a lie, one of many from the January 6th committee.
You know, people who lie like this to us, who think they can fool us, usually they don't respect us. That committee lying like this and their colleagues in the swamp and media and big tech, they don't respect us, and that's fine. I feel better without it, and you should too. So this was major news broken by Tucker. After all, how many specials, hearings, daytime, primetime, wall-to-wall, all of that stuff. A major issue for the midterms. This is pretty shocking information. Trump is still being investigated over January 6th. Hundreds still face charges and are in jail. And not a damn thing in the New York Times. They wouldn't write about it. Nope. Wrote about spiders, wrote about gender. How about the Washington Post? Nothing. Nothing. Even though every political reporter in the world was watching Tucker's show last night, they're not reporting on it. Now, what they're starting to do, they're trying to debunk it. That's without evidence. This is a fake narrative he's trying to come up with. It's not, but they are trying this.
Bit of a fact check this morning after Fox News host Tucker Carlson aired previously unseen video of the assault on the Capitol on his show last night. What Carlson did is use selected clips from surveillance tapes provided to him by House Speaker Kevin McCarthy to claim falsely that journalists and lawmakers lied about the January 6th attack on the Capitol.
He proved conclusively that they were lying about the January 6th situation. Conclusively select clips. You have to select clips. You have to. 40,000 hours, just like the January 6th committee did. However, they omitted this stuff. We've already seen their stuff. There's more stuff. It's not surprising that the fake news would try to debunk something that they don't really even understand or want to understand. But this is kind of surprising to me still. Tucker's own network, Fox News, is ignoring probably the biggest story they've had in maybe 20 years since a correspondent entered Baghdad with coalition troops. Take a look at Fox and Friends. It's a 3-hour show, right? Nice people. They had no interest.
Video shows 4 Americans kidnapped at gunpoint in Mexico.
I personally infuse this room so that it smells just like Mrs. Olsen's house.
This is extremely graphic.
I do. I have a lot of fun with them.
Well, before she leaves.
All right, and it goes on like this. Ignoring the huge news that everybody at Fox is talking about. What are they, jealous? Possibly. Could be jealous of Tucker. Well, what about other shows? What about the straight news shows? You know, the serious news shows. America's Newsroom starts at 9 o'clock, goes to 11 with these two. Did they touch on it? No.
Thanks, guys. Good morning, everyone. Kidnapped in broad daylight. The FBI investigating the abduction of 4 Americans in Mexico.
But here it appears the 4 Americans were shot by a mistake.
Video. It's a play-by-play of Sunday's fiery attack on Atlanta's Cop City.
Dana, we expect today that nearly 24 of those protesters who were arrested and charged with domestic terrorism.
Idaho, 2 brothers were riding snowmobiles when a moose.
It really is amazing, isn't it? What's going on over there? Most of them don't care about the story. They don't care about the people in jail. They don't care about Ashley Babbitt. They care about money. They care about attention. They care about book deals. They don't care about the truth. And quite frankly, I don't think they care about this country. Now, the only one who had an excuse to not cover this story, actually, is me. Because I reported on this stuff 2 years ago. Now, I did not have a security camera, the security camera tapes that Tucker had access to, but I did have some photographic evidence, and I had common sense. So I started with the horns guy way back when. There were serious failures on January 6th that no one seems to be talking about. Failures in security. They've got hundreds of Capitol Hill police officers. They have a budget of something like $700 million a year. And we've all seen the video by now. In certain areas, some of these folks were just allowed right on in. What's going on there? And how about this guy, the horns guy? Here, he just seems to be getting directions and yelling a lot, howling, I should say. By the way, look at that. They literally seem to be saying the Senate chamber is this way. Yeah, and it's true. And now it's confirmed. I mean, we have this footage, and what Tucker has provided is a major, major contribution, all right? But some of us were onto this and have been watching it for a long time. How about the matter of Officer Sicknick? He died in the aftermath of the January 6 riots. He'll be receiving honors, but they'll be in the Capitol Rotunda, which I think is fine. But how about this? He died on January 7th. It's 3.5 weeks later. Do you think there might be something political about how they're doing this now? A memorial/funeral 3.5 weeks after the time of death? I know of no culture where that's normally done, no religion, but I have a feeling that politics is at work here. Politics. Greg, you were a little hesitant back then, but you should trust your instincts. You were right. And the police department there had to admit almost 3 months later that Officer Brian Sicknick died of natural causes. They used him. They used him in death. All right. Somebody else they tried to take down, Senator Josh Hawley, who's a Republican in my book. We talked about how Tucker debunked the whole he was running away from the crowds, and I knew that a long time ago, too. Him of running away. He didn't. Take a look at what they said and what he actually did.
Later that day, Senator Hawley fled after those protesters he helped to rile up stormed the Capitol. See for yourself.
Oh, he's terrified, isn't he? This looks like a guy who might be running 30 seconds late for a train. He's just going home, fleeing, running. He looks like one of those guys commuting. He looks like that guy from Mad Men. Maybe they're going to stop at a bar for a drink. Give me a break. All right, easy there, 2022, Greg. But I was right then. This committee, they broke the law. They clearly broke the law. I'm sorry, you can't lie like that. There's got to be some law against lying to the American people like that and putting out a January 6 report on government paper using government researchers and staff full of lies and attempting to fool and probably successfully fooling a lot of people with the help of big media.
Now, the January 6 committee makes its closing argument to the American people. Reporting tonight, Lester Holt.
Good evening, everyone. It was one of the most difficult days in American history, and for more than a year, the January 6 committee has been investigating why and how a mob of thousands stormed the Capitol building. Tonight, we're told, will serve as a sort of opening argument, the first in a series of hearings that will be very different than traditional congressional hearings. The committee has hired a television consultant to help produce it for a primetime audience.
Totally amazing, right? And they didn't want to know how. They just wanted to hurt Trump.